Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And this episode is really cool. I think it's really important. I'm sure you'll find it pretty interesting because I'm going to be talking about emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. And maybe you really haven't considered yet what the differences of those are. And emotional intelligence and emotional maturity, they are closely related. However, they aren't the same. And someone recently brought this up to me and they said, I'd rather have emotional maturity or be around people with emotional maturity. So hold that thought in your mind as you listen, because I'm sure you'll find it really interesting as you're sitting there pretty curiously listening, and think about how you can have a willingness to experiment with emotional intelligence and emotional maturity, because emotional intelligence refers to the ability to understand, manage, and use emotions effectively. This is the emotions of you and the emotions of others. And the wonderful thing is usually as you're listening, you're using the unconscious mind because you're learning. And the unconscious mind actually doesn't know the difference between self and others. So think about that for a moment. If you can give yourself feedback and you give others feedback, it doesn't really know the difference. It'll apply that to yourself, won't it? So imagine if you were to hang around a bunch of people who understood, managed, and used their emotions effectively. How would you use those emotions in yourself? How much emotional intelligence would you have? On the other hand, emotional maturity, this reflects how well a person is able to apply that understanding and real situations in their reality. And this can include wonderful times where it's easy to have mastery of your emotions, or even during times of stress or conflict. So think about this as you listen, and think about the difference already, the ability to understand compared to applying that understanding. What is most important for you? If you're around certain people, what would you like them to have? What would you like them to do? Would you like them to just understand? Or would you also like them to apply that understanding in their reality? Especially during good times and during times of stress or conflict or any other times. So emotional maturity, if you think about it, it can actually be more effective than emotional intelligence in certain contexts. So I'm going to talk about some of those contexts now. So as you listen, think about how you're going to apply this understanding. Because how useful would it be if you knew exactly how to apply emotional maturity with your family, with your business, with your colleagues? What would that get for you? And what would that allow you to do? How much better would you be at controlling your behavior? And not just controlling, but mastering your behavior and your emotions during stress or during conflict. How would that allow you to have the ability to just let go of certain things, to forgive, to even apologize? Or how effective would that be for you if you could just stay grounded in reality and master your emotions in the long term? I'm sure that would be pretty useful. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So emotional maturity, it helps you maintain self-control and allows you to navigate difficult situations like stress. And you can do this with calmness and emotional maturity. You may even show more resilience when others have highly emotional environments. So this emotional maturity makes it more effective in sustaining long-term healthy relationships, because you can have a consistency of your behaviors under stress, where emotional intelligence helps you recognize your emotions and the emotions of others. Having emotional maturity is going to guarantee that you respond in a consistent way that is effective, even under this pressure of stress. So someone who's angry, for example, they may even have a really good understanding of emotional intelligence. However, if they have emotional maturity when this stress happens, guess what? They won't lash out, will they? Because that means that they're applying this understanding. And it's better to apply the understanding than just to think about it and consider it. And you can even have a better handling of conflict. This is another context that you want to think about emotional maturity, because in this context, emotional maturity is often more effective than emotional intelligence, especially when you're dealing with more complex conflicts. Emotional intelligence might help you understand another person's feelings in that moment, during that conflict. However, if you think about it, if you're able to apply that understanding and use that emotional maturity, then guess what? This will guide you to navigate and resolve things over time. Emotional maturity is going to give you solutions. It's going to give you new choices, new opportunities, new possibilities, and I mention those on almost every episode. So as you think about emotional maturity, imagine the new choices you will have, the new opportunities and possibilities you will have. You're going to think about long-term solutions rather than just giving fairness in the short term and getting rid of an immediate emotional response. Having emotional maturity during conflict allows you to manage things like impulses. You won't just go on the first instinct. You'll avoid seeking compromise and just giving everything to everyone just to resolve the conflict. And at the same time, you'll avoid holding grudges. So imagine that if you didn't have a grudge, you didn't have negative emotions towards this person, how much easier would it be to resolve conflicts if you were more neutral, if you managed your impulses, if you had emotional mastery, if you could apply all that understanding to a conflict? How easy would that be to help with those immediate emotional responses? And another context that you can really use emotional maturity is letting go of your ego. This means that you can forgive. This means that you'll have a willingness to apologize. And you'll want to use this ability. You'll want to move on and learn from things. You won't want to stay stuck. So emotional intelligence, it can make you aware of your mistakes and how others feel about your actions. Emotional maturity, though, This always takes you a step further, even in this context, because you're going to want to take responsibility. You're going to empower yourself. You're going to apologize to yourself and to others, learn from certain things, and then modify your behavior accordingly. This means that you're letting go of your ego because you want to grow instead. You want to build more beneficial relationships instead. So a person with emotional intelligence, they're aware of all these things. They're aware of that understanding. A person with emotional maturity wants to apply that understanding. They take their personal power back. They empower themselves to take responsibility. And most people who want to be successful, they want to have the freedom of choice, the freedom of new opportunities and new possibilities. There's no freedom, though, if you don't have responsibility. So as soon as you take responsibility, you have your personal power, and that will also give you freedom. And this makes emotional maturity more effective because this is going to help you build trust in your relationships, even the relationship with yourself. Because when you focus on taking responsibility and being accountable, you're going to grow over time because you're no longer choosing excuses. You're choosing results. Emotional maturity, it also, in another context, it allows you to deal with more long-term emotions. Emotional maturity involves handling emotions in a way that reflects long-term thinking that allows you to personally grow. And emotional intelligence is more about managing emotions in the present moment, the moment that's happening right now. So, for example, emotional intelligence, it may help you express your irritation right now in a healthy way. Emotional maturity, though, this is going to show you that there's no need to dwell on anything. There's no need to let this impact your relationships over time. You're going to apply this so you can move past any negative emotions, because an emotionally mature person, they don't want negative emotions. They don't want limiting beliefs. They don't want internal conflicts or conflicts with other people to cloud any of their future decisions, because they know that they have new choices, new opportunities, and new possibilities. And they're going to be more effective in using those new choices, opportunities, and possibilities if they sustain a certain level of emotional maturity, emotional well-being, and having that way of thinking mentally. They're going to always be using new ways of thinking because they're applying that understanding. So in the long term, this is going to be more effective because in the future, you're going to be able to think about these things. You're going to be thinking about how you can have a more beneficial impact on your relationships. You're going to be having clarity so you create success in any relationship because you have emotional maturity. In another context, it lets you stay grounded in reality. Someone who has a high level of emotional intelligence, guess what? They may very well be highly empathetic and aware of others' emotions. If they don't have emotional maturity, though, they may struggle to balance that empathy with their own needs. So with emotional maturity, you're going to be able to stay more grounded in your own values. Remember just a couple episodes ago how important values are, and reality. You'll know when to set boundaries, even if it might upset others, even just a tiny little bit. So emotional maturity here is going to show you that there's other choices than empathy. You can choose other healthy choices that are also going to get you the same result. And maybe that's compassion. Sometimes just having compassion for another person can be even more effective than empathy. We can help that person by showing them that we truly do care. We really can show them with our emotions, our intelligence, our maturity. It'll give us that balance for ourselves where we don't have to feel their emotions so much. We can actually counteract their emotion, that something that they're going through right then, with a really positive emotion, and that will impact them in a good way, and it will impact us in a good way. So this helps maintain healthy relationships and boundaries, which if you only use emotional intelligence, you may not get exactly that. And with emotional maturity, this means that you're going to be committed to things like growth, and you're going to be willing to adapt to certain things. When you have emotional maturity, it reflects a deeper commitment to your personal development, your personal growth, and it allows you to change and adapt and be flexible over time. Emotional intelligence, it gives you the tools to understand emotions. And emotional maturity, it helps you use those tools. This means you can continuously improve your behavior. This means you can use flexibility over time. So emotional maturity is going to help you adapt and be flexible to things that change. Or if you don't achieve a goal and you're not sure what to do, emotional maturity is going to help you be more effective when you go to change over time, and this will bring you really predictable results in the future. So if anything happens in the future and it doesn't go exactly as you want, emotional maturity will allow you to apply what you learn from that event so you can be flexible and do something new to get new results. Because many times people try the same thing over and over, and that's going to get them the same result. So people with emotional maturity, people like you, as you're sitting here listening, you're going to get new results because of your emotional maturity. And I'm sure that's really what you're thinking now. So just to summarize all of this up, both of these are really effective and powerful skills to have. Please use them both, because emotional intelligence gives you that understanding, and then emotional maturity allows you to apply that understanding. So each of these skills helps you recognize and master your emotions. And just think, though, that emotional maturity is really that way of applying that understanding to the situations that you're going to be in. And it's going to give you that focus when you're in those situations. And your mind gives you what you focus on 100% of the time. So really use that emotional maturity, because it's going to lead to more effective and consistent behaviors where you continuously improve and want to improve. Healthier relationships, more personal growth, more success, increasing the power of your imagination, clarity, focus, new choices, opportunities, possibilities, all the things that I spoke about. So it's up to you. You just make a choice. You take your personal power back now. You empower yourself. You choose results over excuses. You take accountability and responsibility in all of your personal, professional, family, career, all these different settings, so that you can achieve what you want because you deserve it. So thanks so much for listening. I really do appreciate everyone who is listening to these episodes. Go ahead and rate the podcast wherever you are listening. This helps it get in the minds of many others. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you on the next episode.